What if Goku was the Dragon Saiyan, the true king of all beings? Goku x Android 18 x Caulifla. Chapter 1. Awakening Legacy. The ancient dream came again, more vivid than before. Goku found himself standing on crimson soil beneath twin moons that hung impossibly large in an amber sky. Before him stretched a vast civilization of crystalline spires and angular architecture unlike anything on Earth, or even the brief glimpses he'd had of planet Vegeta in others' memories. The air felt heavy, charged with an energy that seemed to recognize him, to welcome him home. This wasn't planet Vegeta as he knew it. This was something older. Figures moved around him, Saiyans with the unmistakable proud bearing of his race, but different. Their armor bore intricate, scale patterns that seemed to shift with their movements. Some had faint ridges along their forearms or spines. And their eyes, when they turned to look at him, their pupils briefly shifted to vertical slits before returning to normal. At the center of the sprawling city stood a temple of obsidian and red crystal. The Saiyans parted as he approached, bowing their heads not in submission but recognition. Inside, a massive sphere of energy pulsed with 7 distinct colors swirling within its core. A voice spoke, neither male nor female, old yet timeless. The crown awaits its rightful bearer. The blood of dragons stirs. When scales and stars align, the king shall. Goku's eyes snapped open, his body drenched in sweat despite the cool mountain air flowing through the open window of his small house. The dream was already fading, leaving only impressions, red skies, strange eyes, and that pulsing sphere of energy. He'd been having variations of the same dream for weeks now, each time retaining a little more. Each time feeling more like a memory than a dream. He sat up, rubbing his face with calloused hands. Dawn was still an hour away, but he knew sleep wouldn't return now. The restlessness had become familiar, an itch beneath his skin that training couldn't quite satisfy. "What's happening to me?" he whispered to the empty room. Stepping outside, Goku breathed deeply, centering himself before beginning his morning routine. As he moved through familiar kata, his mind wandered back to the dream fragments. They didn't feel like ordinary dreams. They felt like something was trying to reach him, to tell him something important. The first rays of sunlight crested Mount Paozu as he finished, illuminating the peaceful valley he called home. In the distance, he could sense familiar energy signatures, the Earth's defenders going about their lives in this rare period of peace following the tournament of power. His friends, his family, yet lately, he'd felt a strange disconnect, as though he were looking at his life through someone else's eyes. Something was changing within him. He could feel it in moments of stillness, in the peculiar way his ki sometimes flowed differently during intense training. Goku shook his head, pushing the thoughts aside. He had promised to meet Krillin and Android 18 at Master Roshi's today, something about helping them test a new training method. The normalcy would do him good. With a flare of energy, he took to the sky, unaware of the faint, scale-like pattern that briefly shimmered across his forearms before fading away. Android 18 noticed it first. She was sitting on the beach outside Kame House, watching Goku and Krillin spar over the water. To most observers, it would appear as typical, Goku holding back enough to make it a fair fight for his oldest friend. Their movements a blur of precision and power honed over decades of training together. But 18's cybernetically enhanced perception caught the anomalies. Micro fluctuations in Goku's energy signature. Brief moments where his movements followed unfamiliar patterns, as though muscle memory from someone else was bleeding through. And most peculiarly, occasional flares of energy that registered to her sensors as different. Not Super Saiyan energy, not God Ki, but something else entirely. She stood, arms crossed, tracking these fluctuations with growing curiosity. Since the Tournament of Power, she'd developed a deeper respect for the Saiyan's abilities and character. Where once she'd seen him as a simple-minded fighter, she now recognized the layers beneath. The strategic mind often hidden behind his carefree demeanor, the profound understanding of ki that surpassed even ancient masters, and most intriguingly, the sense that Goku himself was only scratching the surface of his true potential. "You see it too, don't you?" Master Roshi's voice startled her. The old martial arts master had approached silently, his usual lecherous manner set aside for a rare moment of seriousness. "The energy fluctuations," she confirmed, not taking her eyes off the sparring match. They're becoming more frequent. Roshi nodded, stroking his beard. I've been watching that boy for most of his life. Seen him break through ceiling after ceiling of what should be possible. But this, he trailed off, squinting behind his sunglasses. This feels different, like something waking up. Has he said anything to you? HMPH. You know Goku. Unless it's preventing him from fighting or eating, he probably hasn't even noticed yet. 18 allowed herself a small smile at that. Typical Goku, the most powerful mortal in their universe, and also sometimes the most oblivious. Over the water, Krillin landed a solid hit that sent Goku skidding across the ocean surface. For a brief moment, so brief 18 almost thought she'd imagined it, Goku's eyes flashed with vertical pupils, and what looked like fine scales appeared along his cheekbones before vanishing. Did you? She began. Yes, Roshi cut her off, suddenly looking every year of his centuries-old age. I was hoping I was just seeing things. Old eyes playing tricks and all that. Before they could discuss it further, both fighters landed on the beach, Krillin breathing hard but grinning proudly, Goku looking strangely distracted despite his smile. Man, I almost had you that time, Krillin exclaimed, grabbing a towel from a nearby chair. Yeah, you really caught me off guard, Goku agreed, though 18 noted his attention seemed elsewhere, his eyes occasionally scanning the horizon as though searching for something. You okay, Goku? She asked directly, never one to dance around a subject. He blinked, focusing on her with surprise, as though just remembering she was there. Huh, oh, yeah, just hungry, I guess. The familiar sun grin appeared, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. You're always hungry, Krillin laughed. Let's see what we can raid from the fridge. As the two old friends headed toward the house, 18 remained on the beach, watching Goku's retreating form with narrowed eyes. Something was definitely changing in the Saiyan, and her analytical mind couldn't help but wonder what it meant for all of them. Master Roshi lingered beside her. Whatever's happening, he said quietly, I think we'd better keep an eye on him. 18 nodded, surprising herself with how much the prospect concerned her. When had Goku's well-being started to matter so personally? She filed that question away for later examination. I'll watch him, she replied simply. Bulma briefs cursed as another simulation failed. The holographic model of DNA strands collapsing into digital chaos before her eyes. She'd been at this for nearly 72 hours straight, sustained by coffee and the kind of scientific obsession that had characterized her greatest breakthroughs. It had started with a routine cataloging project, digitizing the biological data from various alien encounters over the years. Purely precautionary, a way to better prepare for future threats. But when she'd pulled up Goku's file to compare it with Vegeta's as her Saiyan baseline samples, something had caught her attention. Anomalies in Goku's genetic structure that weren't present in Vegeta's. Subtle differences that shouldn't exist if they were from the same species. Now, 3 days later, surrounded by empty coffee cups and discarded takeout containers in her private lab, she was no closer to understanding what she was seeing. Come on, she muttered, running her fingers through disheveled blue hair. What are you hiding, Son Goku? The lab door hissed open behind her, and she spun her chair to see Vegeta standing in the doorway, arms crossed, an expression characteristically stern. You missed dinner, he stated flatly. Though Bulma caught the note of concern beneath his gruff exterior. The children were asking for you. Guilt flickered briefly before curiosity reasserted itself. I lost track of time. There's something strange in Kakarot's DNA analysis that doesn't make sense. Vegeta's posture shifted subtly at the mention of his rival. He stepped into the lab, glancing at the holograph. Hick displays with practiced disinterest that didn't fool Bulma for a second. What kind of strange? He asked finally. She gestured to one of the floating displays. See these markers here? They're dormant now, but they're designed to activate under specific conditions. They're not present in your DNA at all, which means they're not standard Saiyan genetics. Vegeta frowned, moving closer to examine the display. What are they then? That's just it. I don't know. Bulma pulled up another display showing a rotating double helix with highlighted sections. But whatever these genes are designed to do, they're incredibly complex. And recently, she pulled up a comparison of samples taken years apart. They've begun showing signs of activation. Is it dangerous? The question came quickly, and Bulma noted the hint of genuine concern. For all their rivalry, Vegeta had developed a grudging respect for Goku that occasionally bordered on friendship. I don't think so, she said cautiously. But it could explain why Goku has always been able to achieve transformations first, why his power seems to have fewer limitations than other Saiyans. Vegeta scowled at that, but there was more thoughtfulness than anger in his expression. The low-class warrior with royal potential, he muttered. There were legends. What legends? Bulma perked up immediately. Vegeta shook his head. Nothing concrete. Stories told to Saiyan children, myths about our origins. Not worth mentioning. But Bulma knew her husband well enough to recognize when he was withholding information. Before she could press further, an alert chimed from her computer. What now? She sighed, turning back to the screen. Her eyes widened as new data scrolled across the display. That's impossible. What is it, woman? Vegeta demanded, moving to look over her shoulder. The system's been running a pattern recognition program against historical databases, she explained quickly. It just found a match. For those anomalous gene sequences in Goku's DNA. Where? Bulma's fingers flew across the keyboard, bringing up the matched data. In the material composition of the original Dragon Balls from planet Namek. The revelation hung in the air between them, its implications too vast to immediately comprehend. Contact Kakarot, Vegeta said after a long moment. He needs to know about this. Bulma nodded, already reaching for her phone, unaware that across the globe, the subject of their discussion was experiencing the first major surge of power that would change everything. The energy wave hit Goku like a physical blow as he flew home from Master Roshi's island. One moment he was soaring through clear skies, mind drifting between thoughts of training and dinner. The next, he was engulfed in searing heat that seemed to originate from within his very cells. He faltered in midair, clutching at his chest as unfamiliar energy coursed through him. It wasn't painful exactly, but overwhelming. Like trying to channel the spirit bomb through his body, but the energy was coming from inside him rather than being gathered from external sources. What's happening? He gasped as he lost altitude. Plummeting toward the forest below. Images flashed through his mind. The red planet from his dreams, faces of Saiyans with strange eyes, a throne made of what looked like crystallized dragon scales. A voice echoed in his head, speaking words in a language he shouldn't understand but somehow did. Kaio Drakon Su Igero. Rise, Dragon King. Goku crashed through the forest canopy, instinctively curling into a defensive ball as he smashed through branches before impacting the ground with enough force to create a small crater. He lay there, struggling to breathe as the foreign energy continued to surge through his system. When he managed to open his eyes, he found himself staring at his arms in shock. Fine scales, real, physical scales, not an illusion, had formed along his forearms. Shimmering with an iridescent quality that shifted between deep red and gold in the dappled sunlight filtering through the trees. This isn't Super Saiyan, he murmured, watching in fascination as the scales slowly receded back into his skin, leaving it smooth and normal once more. The energy surge subsided as quickly as it had come, leaving him drained but otherwise unharmed. Goku sat up slowly, taking stock of his body. Everything felt normal again, except for a lingering warmth in his core and a strange sense of anticipation. As though a part of him was eagerly awaiting something. The sudden appearance of a familiar energy signature nearby interrupted his thoughts. He looked up to see Android 18 descending through the broken tree canopy, her expression a carefully controlled mask that nonetheless couldn't quite hide her concern. I sensed your energy spike and then drop suddenly, she said by way of explanation, landing gracefully at the edge of the impact crater. What happened? Goku considered deflecting with his usual carefree attitude but found himself wanting to be honest with her. Since the Tournament of Power, he'd developed a new appreciation for 18's direct nature and fighting prowess. There was something refreshing about her straightforwardness. I'm not entirely sure, he admitted, standing and dusting himself off. It was like something inside me suddenly woke up. I saw scales on my arms. He expected skepticism or perhaps clinical curiosity. Instead, 18 nodded as though confirming a suspicion. I saw something similar during your spar with Krillin. Scales on your face. Just for a moment, your eyes changed too. Goku touched his cheek reflexively. You saw it. Why didn't you say anything? I wanted to be certain before concerning you. She approached, studying him with an intensity that might have made him uncomfortable coming from anyone else. You've been having dreams, haven't you? About a red planet. The accuracy of her guess startled him. How did you? You talk in your sleep, she said matter-of-factly. Last week when you dozed off at Kame House after training, you were muttering about red skies and dragon kings. Goku ran a hand through his wild hair, feeling strangely exposed. They're just dreams, he said, though he didn't entirely believe it himself. 18 held his gaze, her blue eyes searching. Are they? Because your energy signature has been showing anomalies for weeks now. Whatever's happening to you, Goku, I don't think it's random. Before he could respond, a sharp pain lanced through his head, bringing with it another flash of images, this time of a massive dragon, not Shenron but something more primordial, wrapped around a planet, scales gleaming with the same iridescence he'd seen on his arms moments ago. He must have swayed on his feet because suddenly 18's hand was on his arm, steadying him. The contact sent an unexpected jolt through him, not unpleasant but startling in its intensity. We should get you to Bulma, 18 said, her voice betraying more emotion than usual. If anyone can figure out what's happening, it's her. Goku nodded, finding himself reluctant to move away from her supportive touch. Yeah, you're right, and maybe Vegeta might know something about this. If it's a Saiyan thing. But you don't think it is, do you? 18's perception was keen as ever. Not a normal Saiyan thing, at least. Goku met her eyes, allowing his uncertainty to show. No, this feels older, like something from before the Saiyans I know about. 18 nodded once, decision made. Then let's not waste time. Can you fly? He tested his energy, finding it stable again though different somehow, as if new channels had opened within him. Yeah, I think so. As they took to the air together, Goku cast one last glance at the crater below, unable to shake the feeling that he'd left something of his old self behind in that impact. Halfway across the universe, on a small, forgotten moon orbiting an unremarkable gas giant, something ancient stirred beneath the barren surface. Deep within a chamber sealed for millennia, crystals embedded in obsidian walls began to glow with faint red light for the first time in countless generations. In the center of the chamber, suspended in a field of energy, a small artifact shaped like a dragon's scale pulsed in rhythm with the distant heartbeat of the one whose dormant blood had finally awakened. A slender figure in flowing robes stepped from the shadows, violet eyes reflecting the pulsing light of the crystals. Vara, last of her order, placed a six-fingered hand against one of the glowing walls and closed her eyes, reaching out with senses beyond mortal comprehension. So, she whispered, the cycle begins anew. The Dragon Saiyan rises once more. She opened her eyes, a complex mixture of hope and trepidation crossing her ageless features. Let us hope this one proves worthy of the crown. The universe cannot endure another failure. With a gesture, she summoned a viewing portal that shimmered into existence before her. Within its depths, the image of Goku and Android 18 flying through Earth's atmosphere materialized. Interesting, she murmured, studying the unlikely pair. The dragon and the machine. Perhaps this time the pattern may break. She waved her hand again, and the portal shifted to show a young female Saiyan from Universe 6. Training with fierce determination, unaware of the destiny about to call her across universal boundaries. The triumvirate forms, Vara observed. Now we wait for the hunters to catch the scent. As if in response to her words, a distant alarm began to sound, its eerie tone echoing through the ancient chamber. Vara didn't appear surprised, merely resigned. Sooner than expected, she sighed. Time grows short. With a final glance at the viewing portal, now showing Goku arriving at Capsule Corporation with Android 18, Vara vanished in a shimmer of light. Leaving the chamber to continue its silent vigil, its crystals pulsing ever stronger as the Dragon Saiyan's power continued to awaken. Capsule Corporation's main laboratory had been transformed into what looked like a cross between a medical facility and a war room. Holographic displays showed scrolling data and three-dimensional models of DNA structures, while scientific equipment hummed and beeped in a chaotic symphony of technology. Goku sat shirtless on an examination table, covered in sensors while a complex scanner moved slowly back and forth over his body. Bulma monitored the incoming data with intense focus, occasionally muttering to herself or typing rapid commands into her computer. Vegeta stood apart, arms crossed and expression guarded, though his eyes never left the proceedings. Android 18 had positioned herself near Goku, ostensibly to help Bulma with the monitoring equipment but unwilling to stray far from the clearly discomfited Saiyan. "This is incredible," Bulma breathed as new data flowed across her screen. "Goku, your cellular structure is actively rewriting itself, but in a controlled pattern, like it's remembering a blueprint it always had." "Is that good or bad?" Goku asked, trying to maintain his usual cheerful demeanor despite the strangeness of the situation. "Neither. It's just unprecedented." Bulma looked up from her screen, excitement overriding exhaustion in her eyes. "Remember when I took DNA samples after you first achieved Super Saiyan God form? I thought the changes then were remarkable, but this is something else entirely. This isn't just a transformation, it's an awakening of something that was always part of your genetic code." Vegeta pushed off from the wall he'd been leaning against. "Show him what you found earlier, woman." Bulma shot her husband an irritated look at his tone but turned to a different display. "I found similarities between certain sequences in your DNA and the molecular structure of the Namekian Dragon Balls. Not our Earth Dragon Balls, specifically the original ones from Namek." Goku blinked, trying to process this. "So, I'm related to the Dragon Balls somehow?" "Not exactly," Bulma clarified. "But there's a connection. Like whatever energy or essence was used to create the Dragon Balls is somehow related to these dormant genes in your DNA. The Dragon Clan of Namek created the Dragon Balls," 18 pointed out. "Are you suggesting they had something to do with Saiyan evolution?" Bulma shook her head. "I think it's the other way around. I think whatever Goku is become predates the Dragon Balls themselves." A heavy silence fell over the room as the implications of this statement sank in. Goku looked down at his hands, remembering the scales that had briefly covered them. Dragon scales, a connection that went beyond coincidence. "Vegeta," he said quietly, looking up at his fellow Saiyan. "You mentioned legends earlier. What weren't you telling us?" All eyes turned to the Saiyan prince, who looked uncharacteristically uncomfortable under the scrutiny. After a moment of internal debate visible on his features, he sighed. "There were stories," he began reluctantly, "told by the elders of House Vegeta. Tales of the original Saiyan, from whom all others descended. In these stories, this progenitor wasn't just a powerful warrior, but something more, a being with the blood of dragons, who could command the very forces of creation and destruction." He paused, seeming to search for words. "Most considered them just myths, stories to glorify our ancestry. But my father, he believed there was truth behind the legends. He spent resources searching for artifacts, ancient Saiyan ruins that predated our time on planet Vegeta." "Did he find anything?" Bulma pressed when Vegeta fell silent. "Nothing concrete. Or if he did, he never shared it with me." Vegeta's eyes fixed on Goku with an unreadable expression. "But there was one consistent element and all the variations of the legend. The true king of the Saiyans would not come from the royal bloodline, but would emerge when the dragon blood awakened once more in one who had been cast away, forgotten among the stars." The weight of his words hung in the air. Goku shifted uncomfortably under their collective gaze. "I don't want to be king of anything," he protested weakly. "I just want to HT strong opponents and protect my friends. What you want may not matter, Kakarot," Vegeta replied, using Goku's Saiyan name pointedly. "If these changes are what I suspect they are, forces will be set in motion beyond any of our control." As if summoned by his ominous words, the building's security alarms suddenly blared to life. Red warning lights flashed as Bulma rushed to a security terminal. "We've got incoming," she shouted over the alarm. "Something just entered Earth's atmosphere at incredible speed. Impact trajectory. It's heading right for us." Goku leapt from the examination table, tearing off the monitoring sensors. The strange energy he'd felt earlier surged again, more controlled this time, responding to the potential threat. "Get everyone to safety," he instructed, surprised by the authoritative tone that came naturally to his voice. "I'll check it out." "Not alone, you won't," 18 stated firmly, moving to his side. The look she gave him brooked no argument, and strangely, Goku found he didn't want to offer one. Her presence felt right somehow. Vegeta joined them, a ball of ki already forming in his palm. Whatever this is, it's no coincidence it arrives now. Together, the three warriors rushed outside just in time to see a streak of golden light tear through the clouds above West City. Unlike the spherical pods Saiyans traditionally used, this vessel was elongated and wrapped in what appeared to be metallic scales that gleamed in the sunlight. The ship, if that's what it was, slowed as it approached, hovering above Capsule Corporation's main dome. Before settling gently onto the sprawling lawn, steam hissed from seams in its surface as a section of the scaled exterior retracted, forming a ramp to the ground. Goku, Vegeta, and 18 stood ready, prepared for whatever might emerge. What none of them expected was the slender female figure that walked calmly down the ramp, her appearance so ordinary it was almost disappointing after such a dramatic arrival. She appeared human at first glance, average height, with short dark hair and simple clothing that resembled a martial artist's GI. Only when she drew closer did they notice the subtle differences. Violet eyes with pupils that occasionally shifted shape, and skin that seemed to shimmer with an almost imperceptible pattern when she moved. "Son Goku," she said, her voice carrying easily across the distance between them. "Or should I address you by your true name? The one even you have not yet remembered." Goku tensed, the unfamiliar energy within him responding to her presence. "Who are you? What do you want?" The woman smiled, an expression both ancient and youthful simultaneously. "My name is Vara. I am the last chronicler of the Dragon Kings." She bowed deeply, with formal precision. "And I have come because the Dragon Saiyan awakens once more. The true king of all beings stirs from his long slumber." Her eyes met Goku's, and in them he saw knowledge of things beyond his comprehension. "I have come to guide you, my king. Before those who would destroy you can find you first." Before anyone could respond, a surge of power emanated from Goku. His eyes flashed, pupils narrowing to draconic slits, and scales erupted across his skin, no longer just on his arms but spreading across his chest and face in an intricate pattern that glowed with inner fire. The transformation lasted only seconds before receding, leaving him gasping but otherwise unchanged. Vara nodded, as though confirming something to herself. "It begins faster than I anticipated. We have little time." "Time for what?" 18 demanded, stepping partially in front of Goku in a protective gesture that surprised even her. "Time to prepare him for what comes next," Vara answered simply. "Time to teach him what it means to be the Dragon Saiyan before his awakening destroys him, and potentially everything else." In the distance, storm clouds began to gather unnaturally fast, lightning dancing between them in patterns too regular to be natural. The wind picked up, carrying with it the scent of ozone and something else, something ancient and powerful. "They have already sensed you," Vara said urgently. "The collectors come. We must act quickly." Goku straightened, feeling the new power within him responding to the approaching threat. Whatever was happening to him, whatever he was becoming, one thing remained constant: his determination to protect those he cared about. "Tell me what I need to know," he said to Vara, his voice resonating with newfound depth. "Tell me how to control this power." As if in answer, the storm above intensified, and a beam of light shot down from the clouds, striking the ground halfway between them and the city. When the light faded, a figure stood there, humanoid but clearly not human. Its body covered in armor that resembled technological chitin, face obscured by a mask with glowing red sensors. "Found you," the figure said, its voice artificial and cold. "Dragon Saiyan genetic signature confirmed. Commencing acquisition protocol." The being launched itself toward Goku with frightening speed, hands transforming into blade-like appendages that gleamed with energy designed to pierce even the strongest defenses. Time seemed to slow for Goku as instincts he never knew he possessed took over. The dragon energy surged through him, no longer chaotic but focused. Responding to his will, scales rippled across his arms as he raised them, not in a defensive posture but with palms extended, fingers spread in a gesture that felt as natural as breathing. "Kaio Drakon Prostasia," he found himself saying, words in a language he had never learned yet understood perfectly. "Dragon King's protection." A barrier of energy erupted from his hands, no the usual key shield he might have created but something that resembled translucent dragon scales interlocked in a perfect lattice. The attacker slammed into it at full speed, blades screeching against the barrier but unable to penetrate. Impossible, the being hissed, recoiling. Integration of dragon heritage is only partial. Full abilities should not be accessible yet. Goku felt a strange calm settle over him. The chaos of the awakening power now channeled into something he could understand: combat. This was familiar territory, even if the energy he wielded was not. I don't know who or what you are. He addressed the attacker, letting the barrier dissolve as he stepped forward, but if you've come for me, you should know, I don't go anywhere I don't want to go. The creature's head tilted, sensors scanning. Fascinating. Adaptation rate exceeds parameters. Recalibrating approach. It raised a hand, and 3 more beams of light struck the ground around them, materializing into identical armored figures. All 4 began to circle the group, moving with unnatural coordination. Goku, 18 said quietly, moving to stand back to back with him. Whatever you did with that barrier, can you do it again? I think so, he replied, feeling the power flowing more smoothly now, responding to his intentions. It's like, it's always been there, just waiting for me to remember how to use it. Vegeta stepped into position, completing their defensive triangle. Well, remember quickly, Kakarot. I don't think our visitors are here for pleasant conversation. Vara had retreated to the ship, watching the confrontation with keen interest but making no move to intervene. Her role, it seemed, was observer rather than participant. The 4 attackers moved in perfect synchrony, launching forward at precisely the same moment from different angles. Vegeta immediately transformed to Super Saiyan Blue, meeting his opponent with a flurry of punches and energy blasts. Android 1. 8 engaged hers with mechanical precision, her unlimited energy reserves allowing her to match the creature's speed and strength. Goku found himself facing 2 attackers, their coordination making the formidable despite his greater individual power. As they closed in, the dragon energy surged again, and this time he embraced it fully, curious to discover what he could do. Scales erupted across his body, not just as armor but as conduits for the strange new energy. His eyes transformed completely, becoming reptilian with enhanced perception that allowed him to track his opponent's movements with perfect clarity. Most surprisingly, his reflexes and combat instincts sharpened beyond even his usual heightened abilities, as though tapping into the muscle memory of countless battles fought long before his birth. Kaio Drakon Pyros, he intoned, and fire unlike any he'd commanded before engulfed his fists, not the blue-white energy of ki but actual flames that shifted between crimson and gold, leaving trails of light as he moved. The battle that followed was unlike any Goku had experienced. The dragon energy responded to his will in ways both familiar and strange, allowing him to create 8 weapons and shields from pure energy, to move with a fluid grace that incorporated elements of his usual fighting style with something older, more primal. It felt both foreign and deeply natural, as though he were remembering rather than learning. Despite their technological advantages and perfect coordination, the attackers found themselves overwhelmed by the combined might of the 3 defenders. Vegeta's raw power and battle experience, 18's tireless precision, and Goku's awakening abilities proved too much for even their advanced systems to counter. As the last attacker fell, its arm cracking under a combined assault from Goku and 18, a voice emanated from all 4 beings simultaneously. Preliminary assessment complete. Dragon Saiyan emergence confirmed. Awakening at 17% completion. Threat level: Alpha. Full retrieval team dispatched. We will return, Dragon King. With those ominous words, the 4 figures dissolved into particles of light that scattered into the atmosphere, leaving no trace of their presence save for the scorched earth where they had fought. In the sudden silence that followed, Goku felt the dragon energy recede, scales sinking back beneath his skin. The power didn't disappear entirely as it had before, instead settling into a low hum throughout his body, more integrated than it had been previously. He turned to find both Vegeta and 18 staring at him with expressions that mingled awe, concern, and in Vegeta's case, a hint of jealousy. What? He asked, momentarily self-conscious. Your power, 18 said quietly. It was different. I couldn't analyze it properly. Quote, Vegeta's assessment was more blunt. Whatever you're becoming, Kakarot, it's beyond Saiyan. Perhaps beyond anything we've encountered before. Vara approached now that the danger had passed. Her expression grave. The collectors have confirmed your awakening. They will return in greater numbers, with technology specifically designed to capture or kill Dragon Saiyans. We must prepare quickly. Quote, who are these collectors? 18 demanded. What do they want with Goku? They are servants of those who hunted the Dragon Saiyans to near extinction millennia ago, Vara explained. Ancient beings who fear the power of the Dragon Kings. As for what they want, she looked directly at Goku. Your genetic material, your energy, and ultimately, your death. The Dragon Saiyan represents a power they cannot control, and therefore cannot allow to exist. Goku absorbed this information with unusual seriousness. These powers, I could feel them responding to me, like they've always been mine. But I don't understand what they are or where they came from. That is why I am here, Vara said. To guide you through the awakening, to teach you what was forgotten. She looked around at the group. But not here. We must go somewhere safer, somewhere the collectors will have difficulty tracking us. I'm not leaving Earth undefended, Goku stated firmly. You misunderstand, Vara replied. Earth is precisely where you need to remain for now. This planet has significance beyond your attachment to it. But we must find a place of power, a nexus where the dragon energy flows strongly. From there, I can begin your instruction while others gather. Others? Vegeta questioned sharply. Vara's gaze shifted to the sky. Yes, the awakening of a Dragon Saiyan resonates across dimensions. Even now, others with the dormant blood feel the call, though they may not understand what draws them. As if in response to her words, Bulma burst from the building, tablet in hand. Guys, I'm picking up unusual energy readings from the dimensional barrier between universes. Something's trying to come through. Goku felt a strange resonance within him, as though a part of him recognized whatever was approaching. It's not hostile, he said with certainty that surprised even him. How can you know that? 18 asked. Goku struggled to explain the certainty he felt. I just know, like it's connected to me somehow. High above them, the sky rippled and tore open, a controlled dimensional rift unlike the harsh tears created by time machines or God Ki. Rough this smooth opening flew a figure wreathed in crimson energy, descending rapidly toward their position. As the newcomer drew closer, they could make out a female form, lean and athletic, with the unmistakable wild hair of a Saiyan. She landed with casual grace several yards away, her expression a mixture of confusion and determination. I don't know what kind of power pulled me across universes, Caulifla said. Her sharp eyes taking in the group before fixing on Goku with startling intensity, but it felt like it was calling specifically to me. And it came from you. She pointed directly at Goku. What are you now, Son Goku? Because whatever it is, it's awakening something in me too. She held up her arm, where faint scale patterns briefly shimmered beneath her skin before fading away. Vara smiled, looking between Goku and Caulifla with satisfaction. And so the second Dragon Saiyan emerges. The balance begins to restore itself. Goku looked at Caulifla, feeling a strange kinship beyond their shared Saiyan heritage. Then to Android 18, whose presence felt increasingly significant in ways he couldn't yet articulate. And finally to Vara, whose arrival had set these events in motion. I think, he said slowly, you'd better start explaining everything. What am I becoming? What is a Dragon Saiyan really? And what does it mean to be the true king of all beings? The wind picked up around them, carrying with it the promise of greater storms to come. Whatever path lay before him, Goku knew with certainty that nothing would ever be the same again. Thunder rumbled in the distance. And somewhere far beyond Earth's skies, ancient forces began to stir, awakened by the return of power they had long thought extinguished. The Dragon Saiyan had returned, and the universe would tremble. Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, Blood of Dragons. Dawn broke over the sacred lands surrounding Korin Tower, painting the ancient forest in hues of amber and gold. Dew-laden leaves shimmered in the first light, creating a tapestry of natural prisms that scattered rainbow fragments across the forest floor. The air hung heavy with moisture and the rich scent of earth and vegetation, undisturbed by the technological intrusions of the modern world. In a small clearing, Goku sat cross-legged, eyes closed, focusing on the unfamiliar energy that now coursed through his veins. 3 days passed since the confrontation at Capsule Corporation, 3 days of revelations and more questions than answers. They had retreated to this remote location at Vara's insistence, establishing a temporary sanctuary where the dragon energy supposedly flowed more strongly through Earth's natural ley lines. The gentle rustle of approaching footsteps broke his concentration. He didn't need to open his eyes to recognize Android 18's distinctive gait, measured, precise, yet somehow lighter than her mechanical origins would suggest. "You're up early," she observed, stopping at the edge of the clearing. Goku opened his eyes, offering her a smile that felt more genuine than the forced cheerfulness he'd maintained since their arrival. "Couldn't sleep. Too much energy buzzing around." He tapped his chest. "It's like having a second heartbeat sometimes." 18 studied him with that penetrating gaze that seemed to catalog every detail. Since their hasty departure from West City, she had appointed herself his unofficial monitor, tracking the increasingly frequent manifestations of his Dragon Saiyan traits with scientific precision. What had begun as clinical observation had evolved into something more personal, a concern that surprised them both. "The scales appeared again while you were sleeping," she informed him, approaching to sit on a fallen log nearby. Morning light caught in her blonde hair, creating a halo effect that momentarily distracted him. "Different pattern this time, more concentrated around your spine and shoulders." Goku rolled his shoulders reflexively. "I felt it. Like wearing armor that's part of me." He frowned slightly. "Vara says it's my body remembering what it's supposed to be. And you believe her?" 18's tone remained neutral, but Goku had learned to recognize the subtle indicators of her skepticism, the slight narrowing of her eyes, the almost imperceptible tilt of her head. "I don't know what to believe anymore," he admitted, rising fluidly to his feet. The movement carried a new grace, the dragon energy lending him a predatory elegance that hadn't been present before. "But these changes are happening whether I understand them or not. Better to learn control than fight it." 18 watched him stretch, her enhanced vision detecting the faint outline of scales that momentarily shimmered beneath his skin as his muscles flexed. "Your power signature continues to evolve. It's becoming harder for me to analyze." Goku paused mid-stretch, catching something in her voice. "Does that bother you?" The question seemed to surprise her. After a moment of consideration, she replied, "Yes, I'm accustomed to understanding the energy patterns of those around me. Yours was always comfortable to track. Now it's becoming something my systems can't fully process." The admission revealed more vulnerability than 18 typically allowed herself to display. Goku found himself moved by her honesty, by this small glimpse beneath her composed exterior. "I'm still me," he assured her, closing the distance between them with a few steps. "Whatever I'm becoming, that hasn't changed." Their eyes met, blue against black, and something unspoken passed between them, a connection neither had anticipated but both increasingly valued. The moment broke as Caulifla's unmistakable energy signature flared nearby, followed by the sound of splintering wood and a string of colorful curses that echoed through the forest. Goku sighed, running a hand through his wild hair. "Sounds like her morning training isn't going well." "She lacks patience," 18 observed dryly. "And subtlety. She's frustrated. I know how that feels." Goku glanced in the direction of the disturbance. "Whatever's happening to me is affecting her too, but differently. Vara says it's because we're from different universes, same dragon blood but divergent evolutionary paths." 18 stood, brushing invisible dust from her clothing with characteristic precision. "You should help her." "Why? Our instinctive control is better than hers." Goku looked at her with surprise. "You think I should train her?" "I think you understand what she's experiencing better than anyone else could." 18's expression softened marginally. "Besides, teaching often clarifies understanding for the teacher as well." The insight impressed him. "When did you get so wise about training?" A ghost of a smile touched her lips. "I've spent years observing fighters like you and my brother. I pay attention." Another crash echoed through the trees, followed by more creative profanity. "I'd better go before she demolishes the entire forest," Goku said with a chuckle. He hesitated, then impulsively reached out to squeeze 18's shoulder, a gesture of appreciation that felt simultaneously natural and daring. "Thanks for the advice, and for watching over me these past few days." The touch lingered a moment longer than strictly necessary, an unspoken acknowledgement of the shifting dynamic between them. Then he was gone, moving through the forest with supernatural speed toward the source of the disturbance. 18 remained in the clearing, her hand rising unconsciously to the spot where his had rested, her advanced systems recording the slight elevation in her core temperature and the curious flutter of her partially organic heart. Caulifla stood amid the wreckage of several ancient trees, chest heaving with exertion. Frustration etched across her features. Sweat plastered her spiky hair to her forehead, and her knuckles bore the raw evidence of hours of intense training. Stupid. Useless. Power, she growled, glaring at her forearm where scale patterns had briefly appeared before fading again. Either come out properly or don't bother showing up at all. It doesn't work that way, Goku's voice came from behind her. Forcing it just makes it retreat. She whirled, embarrassment and pride warring on her face. I wasn't forcing anything, I was training. Looks more like you were fighting with yourself. Goku approached, stepping carefully over the fallen timber. And losing. Caulifla bristled at the assessment, then deflated slightly as she surveyed the destruction around her. It's maddening, she admitted reluctantly. I can feel it inside me, this power that's somehow mine but doesn't belong to me. It flickers and teases but won't fully manifest. Goku nodded, understanding her frustration intimately. Mine was the same at first. Still as sometimes. He held out his hand, palm up, and with a look of concentration, summoned the dragon energy to the surface. Scales PP led across his forearm in an intricate pattern, gleaming with metallic iridescence in the morning light. How are you doing that? Caulifla demanded, moving closer to examine the transformation with unconcealed envy. I stopped fighting it, Goku explained, letting the scales recede. The power doesn't respond to force or will the way ki does. It's more like remembering something you've always known but forgotten. Caulifla snorted skeptically. That makes no sense. I know. Goku grinned, some of his old carefree attitude breaking through. But neither does being descended from ancient dragon people, and here we are. Despite herself, Caulifla's lips twitched toward a smile. Something about Goku's straightforward acceptance of the absurd had always resonated with her, even when she'd initially resented his superior power during the Tournament of Power. So what's your secret? She asked, making an effort to sound less confrontational. How do you make it respond? Goku considered the question seriously. I think it's about harmony. When I'm at peace with myself, when I'm not trying to be something I'm not, the dragon blood responds. Peace isn't exactly my specialty, Caulifla admitted, kicking absently at a piece of broken wood. No, but authenticity is. Goku's observation caught her off guard. You've never pretended to be anything other than exactly who you are. Maybe that's why the dragon blood woke in you too. Caulifla stared at him, momentarily speechless at the unexpected insight. Before she could formulate a response, Goku continued. Try something for me. Instead of trying to force the power out, just accept that it's there. Acknowledge it as part of you, something that's always been waiting. That sounds like mystical garbage, she grumbled, but closed her eyes anyway. Willing to try anything that might help. Focus on your breathing, Goku instructed, moving to stand behind her. Feel the energy inside you, not just your ki, but the newer energy underneath it. Caulifla inhaled deeply, attempting to follow his instructions. For several moments, nothing happened. Then, just as she was about to declare the exercise a failure, she felt it. A different current flowing beneath her familiar ki, ancient and powerful. I feel it, she whispered, keeping her eyes closed to maintain the connection. It's wild, untamed. That's it, Goku encouraged, his voice low and steady. Now don't try to control it. Just acknowledge it, welcome it. A strange warmth spread through Caulifla's limbs, different from the heat of exertion or the energy of her Super Saiyan transformation. This felt primordial, like magma flowing through her veins. Without opening her eyes, she knew the scales had appeared. She could feel them forming on her arms and across her shoulder blades, an extension of herself rather than a foreign addition. Look, Goku said softly. She opened her eyes to see her arms covered in scales that shimmered with a deep crimson hue. Subtly different from the patterns she'd observed on Goku. Where his possessed a regal, symmetrical quality, hers formed swirling, flame-like patterns that conveyed raw, untamed power. They're different, she breathed, examining the transformation with newfound wonder. Vara says it's because we represent different aspects of the Dragon Saiyan legacy, Goku explained. I am supposedly connected to the sovereign bloodline, while yours is from the Tempest lineage. Caulifla absorbed this information, turning her arms to watch how the scales caught the dappled sunlight. Tempest, she repeated, feeling the rightness of it. That fits. It does, Goku agreed with a warm smile that stirred something unexpected within her. The storm to my, whatever kings are supposed to be. Boring and ceremonial, she suggested with a smirk. His laugh echoed through the clearing, genuine and uninhibited. Probably. Good thing I've got you around to keep things interesting. The casual comment carried no hidden meaning, yet Caulifla found herself oddly pleased by the implication of continued partnership. Since being drawn across universal boundaries 3 days ago, she'd fought against the inexplicable pull she felt toward this man who had once been merely a respected rival. Now, as they stood amid the destruction of her frustrated training, something shifted in her perception. The scales gradually receded as her concentration wavered, but the warmth of the dragon energy remained, a pleasant hum beneath her consciousness. Thank you, she said, the words feeling awkward on her tongue. Gratitude had never come easily to her. Goku's expression reflected understanding. We're in this together, he said simply. Whatever this turns out to be. The moment stretched between them, comfortable yet charged with unspoken potential. Then a familiar voice broke the silence. If you two are finished demolishing the ecosystem, Vara wants everyone at the base camp. Says she's ready to explain more about your royal heritage. Android 18 stood at the edge of the clearing, arms crossed, expression unreadable. We're coming, Goku called back, then turned Ed to Caulifla with a conspiratorial grin. Ready to find out what being dragon royalty actually means. Caulifla matched his grin with her own fierce smile. As long as it involves getting stronger, I'm in. As they followed 18 back toward camp, Caulifla found herself studying the interaction between the android and Goku with newfound interest. There was an ease between them, a mutual respect that went beyond battlefield alliances. She had initially dismissed 18 as cold and mechanical, but now recognized something more complex in the blonde warrior, particularly in how her eyes tracked Goku's movements with what could only be described as protective vigilance. Interesting, Caulifla thought. The Dragon King has already gathered quite an unusual court. The notion should have bothered her more than it did. The temporary camp they'd established near the base of Koreen Tower had grown more elaborate over the past 3 days. What had begun as basic shelters now resembled a small research outpost. Complete with solar-powered equipment Bulma had provided before they departed West City. Vara stood beneath the shade of a massive oak tree, hands clasped behind her back as she surveyed. A holographic display projected from an artifact of clearly alien origin. The device resembled a dragon's claw clutching a multifaceted crystal, its surface etched with symbols that shifted and changed as if alive. Ah, good. You've arrived, she acknowledged as Goku, 18, and Caulifla approached. And I see you've made progress, Caulifla. The Tempest blood responds to you more readily now. Caulifla raised an eyebrow, unsurprised but still unnerved by Vara's uncanny awareness. Been spying on us. Observing, Vara corrected mildly. It is my duty to chronicle the awakening. Bulma looked up from where she'd been examining the alien device with poorly concealed scientific fascination. Dark circles beneath her eyes testified to another night spent analyzing data rather than sleeping. Now that everyone's here, maybe you can finally give us some straight answers. Who exactly are you, and what do you know about what's happening to Goku and Caulifla? Vara regarded the scientist with patient amusement. Direct questions. I appreciate that. She gestured to the holographic display, which shifted to show a star map unlike any charting system they recognized. To understand who I am, you must first understand what came before. The display zoomed in on a solar system with twin suns orbiting each other, their gravitational dance creating a habitable zone unlike those in single-star systems. Within this zone hung a planet of breathtaking beauty, crystalline cities sprawling across crimson continents, vast oceans that shimmered with bioluminescent life. Sadala, Vegeta breathed, recognizing the name if not the appearance of the ancient Saiyan homeworld. Yes and no, Vara replied enigmatically. This was indeed Sadala, but long before the Saiyan race as you know it came to be. She waved her hand. and the image shifted to show the planet's inhabitants, beings that resembled Saiyans in basic form but with distinct differences. Their skin bore natural scale patterns, their eyes held vertical pupils, and many displayed wing-like appendages or ridge formations along their spines. The first ones, she continued, neither fully dragon nor fully humanoid, but a perfect synthesis. They were among the earliest sentient species to evolve after the gods established the cosmic order. Goku stared at the images, feeling a strange resonance within him, as though looking at distant relatives. These are our ancestors, the progenitors of what would eventually become the Saiyan race, yes. Vara manipulated the display again, showing the evolution over countless millennia. The first ones possessed powers beyond comprehension, the ability to channel cosmic energies, to shift between forms, to create and destroy on scales that rivaled the gods themselves. He display showed these beings in various forms of transformation, some fully draconic, others maintaining humanoid appearance while manifesting specific draconic traits. Their civilization spread across multiple galaxies, establishing a harmonious order. They did not conquer, they cultivated. Under their guidance, countless species flourished. They were custodians of life itself. Vara's voice carried a note of reverence. If they were so powerful and benevolent, what happened to them? 18 asked, her analytical mind cutting to the heart of the matter. Vara's expression darkened. The fate that befalls many great civilizations, division from within. The hologram shifted to show conflict, the once unified species now clearly separated into factions. Some believed their purpose was to guide and protect. Others came to see themselves as rightful rulers, superior beings whose power granted them dominion. Let me guess, Bulma interjected. Civil war, a conflict that spanned galaxies and lasted millennia. Vara confirmed grimly. The faction that called themselves the Sovereign Dragons fought to maintain the original purpose as guardians and guides. The Cosmic Imperators sought to establish absolute rule over all lesser beings. The images showed devastating battles that literally tore planets apart, energy weapons that distorted space-time itself, and civilizations caught in the crossfire. In their arrogance, the Imperators sought to harness powers beyond even their understanding. They attempted to tap directly into the fundamental forces that govern creation itself. And it backfired, Caulifla surmised, drawn into the narrative despite her usual impatience for history lessons. Catastrophically, Vara's voice fell to little more than a whisper. The resulting cataclysm didn't just destroy their civilization, it fractured reality itself, creating the first divisions between what you now know as separate universes. This revelation drew shocked silence from the group. Even Vegeta, typically skeptical of ancient legends, appeared stunned by the implications. The surviving sovereigns, greatly diminished in number and power, enacted a desperate plan to preserve their legacy. They used the last of their collective power to create artifacts of immense importance, repositories of knowledge and potential that could one day restore balance. The Dragon Balls, Goku breathed. The connection suddenly clear. Vara nodded. One manifestation of their legacy, yes. The Namekian who would become Guru encountered one such artifact and, through communion with it, learned to create the first Dragon Balls, though even he did not fully understand their true origin or purpose. And the surviving first ones, what happened to them? Bulma pressed. Quote, they scattered across the newly formed universes, their powers greatly diminished. Over generations, most of their draconic traits became dormant, recessive genes buried deep within their DNA. They became, for all practical purposes, ordinary humanoids with extraordinary potential. Vara looked directly at Goku and Caulifla. They became the ancestors of the Saiyan race. So all Saiyans have this, dragon blood? Vegeta demanded, looking at his own hands as if expecting scales to appear. All carry traces, yes. But the concentrated bloodlines, those with the potential to manifest the full power of the first ones, became vanishingly rare. In most Saiyans, this heritage expresses itself only as the remarkable adaptability and battle prowess for which your race is known. Vara gestured to Goku. But occasionally, a child is born with the perfect sequence, the complete genetic memory of what came before. But why now? 18 questioned. Why is this manifesting in Goku after all this time? Vara turned her violet gaze to the android. An excellent question. The dormant genes require specific triggers to activate. Certain cosmic alignments, proximity to concentrated sources of primal energy, and sometimes. She paused meaningfully, near-death experiences that force evolutionary adaptation. Goku chuckled humorlessly. Well, I've had plenty of those. Indeed, each time you've approached death and returned, each transformation you've achieved, each divine power you've channeled, all have been gradually awakening the dormant heritage within you. Vara manipulated the display again, showing what appeared to be Goku's DNA alongside standard Saiyan genetic markers. The tournament of power was the final catalyst. Exposure to the concentrated divine energy at the Sente R of all universes completed the activation sequence. And me? Caulifla asked, stepping forward. I didn't go through all that. Your awakening is different, triggered by proximity and resonance, Vara explained. Once Goku's dragon blood fully activated, it sent out a call that reached across universal boundaries to others with compatible heritage. The Tempest bloodline in Universe 6 respond. Ed to the sovereign bloodline of Universe 7. Like magnets of opposite polarity, Bulma murmured, scientific mind already processing the implications. A crude but effective analogy, Vara agreed. The sovereign and Tempest aspects are meant to balance each other, neither complete without the other. Something in her tone made Goku and Caulifla exchange a quick glance, an unspoken question passing between them. So what happens now? Goku asked, returning his attention to Vara. What does all this actually mean for us? Vara's expression grew solemn. It means you must prepare. The awakening has only begun. And it will intensify. New abilities will manifest, some controllable, others dangerously volatile until mastered. Your bodies will continue to evolve, the dormant draconic traits becoming more pronounced. And the collectors? 18 reminded them of the immediate threat. You said they hunted the Dragon Saiyans before. The collectors serve the Imperator legacy, Vara explained grimly. Not the original Imperators themselves. Those beings are long gone, but organizations and species who inherited their philosophy of domination. They seek the genetic material of Awakenin, G-Dragon Saiyans to harness the power for themselves, and to eliminate any who might challenge their authority. Great, Caulifla muttered. So we're valuable science experiments with targets on our backs. You are the potential restoration of balance to a cosmos long fractured, Vara corrected firmly. The collectors fear you because they cannot control you. The dragon blood answers to no master but itself. Goku absorbed this information with uncharacteristic solemnity. You mentioned training. How do we control these powers properly? Through communion with your heritage, Vara replied, reaching into her robes to withdraw two small objects that resembled dragon scales, one gleaming gold with red undertones, the other deep crimson with gold flecks. These are memory scales, artifacts created by the first ones. They contain the accumulated knowledge and experience of your respective bloodlines. She handed the gold scale to Goku and the crimson one to Caulifla. The moment each touched their designated artifact, the scales seemed to melt partially into their palms, adhering to their skin before slowly absorbing completely, leaving behind a faint, tattoo-like impression. Whoa! Goku exclaimed, feeling a rush of foreign images and sensations flood his mind. It's like downloading information directly into my brain. Caulifla's reaction was equally startled. There are voices, memories that aren't mine. She looked up at Vara with wide eyes. I can see Sadala as it was. I can feel the wings I should have. The memory scales provide context and guidance for your awakening abilities. Vara explained. They will integrate gradually, so as not to overwhelm your consciousness. But they will accelerate your understanding and control. Is it safe? 18 asked sharply, moving closer to Goku with obvious concern. The scales are specifically attuned to their bloodlines, Vara assured her. They cannot harm them. 18 looked unconvinced but said nothing further, though her stance remained protective. There's more you need to know, Vara continued, turning back to the holographic display. The awakening of Dragon Saiyans after so long will attract more than just the collectors. Others with knowledge of the old ways will sense your emergence. Some will seek to ally themselves with you, others to eliminate potential rivals. So basically, trouble's coming from all directions. Bulma summarized with a sigh. Indeed, which is why we must prepare quickly. Vara deactivated the hologram, the crystal in the Dragon Claw device going dark. Son Goku, Caulifla, you must begin intensive training immediately. The memory scales will guide your physical adaptations, but you must learn to control the energies consciously. Goku nodded, already feeling the strange knowledge from the scale beginning to organize itself within his mind. Names for abilities he didn't yet possess but somehow recognized. Combat forms beyond any martial art he'd studied. And strangest of all, words in a language he'd never heard but suddenly understood, the ancient tongue of the first ones. Drakon K. Sipno, he murmured, the words feeling natural on his tongue. Dragon awakening. Thiela Igeromai. Caulifla responded automatically, then blinked in surprise at her own utterance. Tempest rising. Vara looked between them with approval. The language returns to you. Good. The old tongue carries power in itself. It will help focus your abilities. I have a question, 18 interjected, her cool gaze fixed on Vara. You've explained what they are and the danger they're in. You've neglected to explain your own role in all this. Who exactly are you, Vara? You're clearly not a Saiyan or a first one, yourself. The question hung in the air, one that others had wondered but not voiced so directly. Vara regarded 18 with newfound respect. Perceptive, she acknowledged. I am a chronicler, last of an order created by the Supreme Kais long ago to observe and record the cosmic balance. We were tasked with watching for signs of the Dragon Saiyan's return, to guide them when the time came. So you work for the Kais? Vegeta asked skeptically. I serve the cosmic balance, Vara corrected. The Kais themselves have largely forgotten the true history I've shared with you today. Only the Grand Priest and Zeno retain full knowledge of the first ones and their significance. This revelation sent a ripple of surprise through the group. Even Goku, who had interacted directly with the childlike god of everything, had never heard Zeno mention anything about dragon people or universal origins. There's something you're still not telling us, 18 pressed, her intuition sharp as ever. Something about what happens when the Dragon Saiyans fully awaken. Vara's expression became guarded. Some knowledge must be earned rather than given freely. The full scope of what awaits. She shook her head. Focus first on survival and control. The greater purpose will reveal itself in time. Before anyone could press further, a sharp beeping emanated from Bulma's portable sensor array. She rushed to the equipment, fingers flying over the controls. We've got incoming, she announced. Expression grim. Multiple energy signatures approaching Earth's atmosphere. Signature patterns match those collectors from before, but much stronger. How many? Vegeta demanded, already shifting into battle readiness. At least 20 distinct signatures, Bulma replied. And something larger accompanying them, possibly a transport vessel. They've escalated their response more quickly than I anticipated, Vara said, concern evident in her voice. The first encounter must have confirmed what they suspected about your awakening progress. Goku felt the dragon energy stir within him, responding to the potential threat. This time, instead of fighting the sensation, he embraced it, drawing on the nascent knowledge provided by the memory scale. Drakon Diogmos, he said, his voice resonating with newfound authority. Dragon sight. His vision shifted, expanding beyond normal perception. Suddenly he could see energy patterns across vast distances, including the approaching threat still beyond Earth's atmosphere. 23 collector units, he confirmed, blinking as his vision returned to normal. And something else, something ancient. Caulifla closed her eyes, attempting to access similar abilities. Thiela ASTC, she murmured. Tempest sensing. Her eyes snapped open, now glowing with crimson energy. They're not just coming for us, she said urgently. They're targeting something else too, something here on Earth. The Dragon Balls, Vara realized with alarm. They must have detected the connection between Goku's Awakening G and the Dragon Balls, energy signature. Then we need to gather the Dragon Balls before they do, Goku decided, the path forward suddenly clear. Bulma, do you have the Dragon Radar? Bulma patted her pocket. Never leave home without it. Good. We'll need to split up, Goku continued, a natural strategic authority emerging that surprised even those who had known him longest. Vegeta, you ND Bulma take the radar and start gathering the Dragon Balls. Your speed and her technology make you the best team for that. Vegeta looked like he might object to taking orders, then nodded curtly, recognizing the logic. 18 and I will intercept the main collector force, Goku continued. Our combined fighting styles should be effective against their coordinated attacks. 18 moved to his side without hesitation, her stance indicating readiness. Caulifla, you and Vara need to secure this location. The memory scales and Vara's artifacts need protection, and your Tempest abilities are better suited to defensive fighting than open field combat right now. Caulifla bristled slightly at being assigned protection duty but couldn't argue with his assessment of her current capabilities. Fine, but you better leave some for me to fight later. Goku smiled at her, then turned to address the entire group. We still don't understand everything that's happening, but we know enough to act. These collectors want to either capture or kill us, and they're willing to endanger Earth to do it. That makes this simple for me. His expression hardened with determination. No one threatens my home or my friends. As he spoke, scales rippled across his skin, more controlled than previous manifestations. His eyes shifted to draconic slits, gleaming with golden light. The transformation wasn't complete or sustained, but it was a visible indicator of his growing control over the awakening power. Be careful, Vara cautioned. Your abilities are still developing. Don't overextend yourselves. No promises. Goku replied with a hint of his usual carefree grin, though it now carried an edge of predatory anticipation. He turned to 18, offering his hand. Ready. She took it without hesitation, her cool fingers intertwining with his. Let's go hunting. Something in her tone, in the deliberate choice of words, resonated with the dragon instincts awakening within him. Goku felt a surge of unfamiliar possessiveness, a primal recognition of her as more than just an ally in battle. With a nod to the others, he gathered his energy, both familiar ki and the newer dragon power, and launched into the sky with 18 at his side. Their auras intermingling as they accelerated toward the approaching threat. Behind them, Caulifla watched their departure with a complex expression, noting the way their energies seemed to harmonize. Rather than jealousy, she felt a strange sense of inevitability, as though witnessing the first moves in a cosmic dance whose pattern had been set long before any of them existed. The sovereign finds his first guardian, Vara murmured beside her, as if reading her thoughts. What does that mean? Caulifla asked, turning to the cryptic chronicler. Vara smiled enigmatically. The dragon kings of old never ruled alone. The sovereign aspect requires balance, not just from the Tempest bloodline, but from chosen companions who anchor and complement their nature. Companions, Caulifla repeated, catching the implication. You mean mates. Among other roles, Vara acknowledged. The dragon blood recognizes those with compatible spirits, those who can withstand the power without being consumed by it. Caulifla's gaze returned to the sky where Goku and 18 had vanished. And the android qualifies. Her unique nature makes her ideally suited, Vara confirmed. Neither fully organic nor fully synthetic, she exists at the intersection of multiple realities, much like the dragon Saiyans themselves. And me? Caulifla asked, the question escaping before she could reconsider it. Where do I fit in this cosmic soap opera? Vara's violet eyes seemed to see through her bravado to the genuine uncertainty beneath. The Tempest complements the Sovereign in ways no other can. You are not subordinate to him, Caulifla. You are his equal counterpart. Chaos to his order, storm to his stability, freedom to his responsibility. The explanation resonated on a level deeper than conscious thought, stirring something primal within Caulifla's awakening dragon blood. Before she could pursue the conversation further, her heightened senses detected movement in the forest beyond their camp. We've got company, she warned, scales rippling across her forearms as she shifted into a fighting stance. And not the friendly kind. Vara nodded grimly, retrieving a staff of strange crystalline material from her ship. The collectors have sent an advance team while the main force engages Goku. They seek the artifacts. Well, they're going to be disappointed, Caulifla declared, crimson energy engulfing her hands as she embraced the Tempest power flowing through her veins. For the first time, the energy responded fully to her will, neither overwhelming nor elusive but a natural extension of herself. As the first collector units emerged from the tree line, sleek and deadly in their chitinous armor, Caulifla felt a fierce joy surge through her. This was why she had always lived for battle, not just for the thrill of competition, but for moments like this when everything aligned. Purpose, power, and absolute clarity. Thiela Zespasma, she cried, the ancient words triggering a surge of power that manifested as a cyclonic burst of crimson energy. Tempest unleashed. The battle had begun, and with it, the next phase of their awakening. High above Earth's atmosphere, Goku and Android 18 soared through the void of space, protected by their respective energies. For Goku, this ability had once required the divine key of his god forms, but now the dragon energy created a natural barrier around him, allowing him to breathe and move freely in the vacuum. 18, whose cybernetic nature had always granted her independence from oxygen, matched his pace effortlessly. Her golden aura contrasting with the reddish-gold energy that now surrounded him. They're approaching in attack formation, she observed, enhanced vision detecting the incoming collector vessels. 3 distinct groups, likely attempting to flank us. Goku nodded, stretching his newfound perceptions. The memory scale had integrated further during their ascent, granting H.I.M. access to knowledge and abilities that felt simultaneously foreign and familiar. The smaller ones are just drones, he realized, drawing on information he couldn't possibly have known before. The real threat is that larger ship. It's carrying an archival unit, a collector designed specifically to extract and preserve genetic material. 18 glanced at him, surprised by the precise assessment. The memory scale, it's like having a library in my head, Goku confirmed. Information appears when I need it, but it's disorienting. Like remembering things I never actually experienced. The IR conversation halted as the first wave of collector drones accelerated toward them, weapons systems activating. Unlike the humanoid collectors they'd faced at Capsule Corporation, these were sleeker. More mechanical in appearance, clearly designed for space combat. Dracon Aspida, Goku intoned, extending his hands. Dragon Shield. A barrier of interlocked energy scales materialized around them both. Far more substantial than the prototype version he'd created during their first encounter with the collectors. The drones' energy weapons impacted against it, creating ripples but failing to penetrate. Impressive, 18 noted, analyzing the shield's composition with her sensors. But we can't stay defensive if we want to stop that main ship. Agreed. Goku's eyes narrowed as he studied the attack patterns. They're coordinated through a central command signal. If we can disrupt it, leave that to me, 18 replied, a plan already forming. Their technology is advanced but still operates on principles I can interface with. Give me an opening to reach that command node. She pointed to a smaller vessel hanging back from the main assault. Goku nodded, feeling a surge of confidence in her abilities that went beyond rational assessment. Something in his awakening dragon nature recognized and valued her unique skills, not as subordinate to his own power but as perfectly complementary. On my mark, he said, gathering energy between his palms, not the familiar Kamehameha, but something new, drawing on the dragon power. Dracon Pyrosynthesis, Dragon Fire Fusion, the energy condensed into a sphere of intense golden flames, pulsing with barely contained power. Unlike his usual key attacks, this felt alive somehow, responsive to his will on a fundamental level. Now, he called, thrusting the sphere forward. The dragon fire exploded outward in a controlled wave, not as a beam but as dozens of serpentine tendrils that sought out the drone ships with uncanny precision. Where they touched, the drones' armor began to melt and dissolve, their coordinated formations breaking apart as systems failed. 18 launched herself through the gap Goku had created, moving with Mechan precision enhanced by years of martial arts training. The collectors attempted to intercept her, but her combat programming anticipated their moves with perfect counterstrategies. Reaching the command node, she placed her palm against its hull, focusing her unique abilities. While not technically an android with magical powers like her brother, 18's cybernetic systems included advanced interface capabilities that Dr. Gero had intended for hacking and controlling other technologies. Initiating override, she murmured, eyes glowing faintly as her consciousness extended into the alien systems. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, one by one, the drone ships faltered, their movements becoming erratic before ceasing altogether. The command node itself began to emit pulses of confused energy as 18's intrusion corrupted its operational protocols. Got it, she announced with cool satisfaction, disengaging and pushing away from the now crippled vessel. They're blind and disorganized, but not for long. The main ship operates on a separate system. Goku appeared beside her, having dispatched the remaining functional drones. His appearance had subtly altered during the brief battle. Scales now covered portions of his chest and shoulders in an armor-like configuration, and ridges had formed along his forearms. His eyes glowed with draconic intensity as he surveyed their handiwork. "That was amazing," he told 18, genuine admiration in his voice. "I've never seen anyone hack an alien ship with just a touch." Despite herself, 18 felt a flicker of pleasure at his praise. "Perks of being a cybernetic human," she replied with her characteristic understatement. Now, about that main ship. They turned their attention to the massive vessel approaching Earth's orbit. Unlike the sleek drones, this craft resembled a massive insectoid creature, its hull composed of overlapping plates that resembled chitin but clearly consisted of advanced technological materials. Weapon ports lined its segmented body, and at its center, a transparent dome revealed a concentration of energy that pulsed with ominous purpose. "That's their extraction chamber," Goku identified, drawing on the memory scale's knowledge. "Designed to drain the life force and genetic material from captured Dragon Saiyans." "Charming," 18 remarked dryly. "How do we destroy it?" Goku studied the vessel, searching the newly accessible knowledge for weaknesses. "The dome is reinforced against energy attacks, but the propulsion systems at the rear are vulnerable. If we can disable those, the ship will be stranded in orbit." Before they could formulate a plan of attack, the vessel's weapon ports activated simultaneously, unleashing a barrage of energy beams that converged on their position. Even with Goku's enhanced reflexes, complete evasion was impossible. He managed to deflect the majority of the assault with hastily erected dragon shields, but several beams broke through, striking them both. 18 was thrown backward by the impact, internal systems momentarily disrupted by the unfamiliar energy signature. Goku fared better, his awakening draconic physiology adapting to absorb and redirect portions of the attack, but still sustained damage that manifested as cracks in his scale armor. "Are you okay?" he called to 18, concern evident despite their precarious situation. She stabilized her trajectory, running internal diagnostics, systems functioning at 82% capacity. "I can continue." The ship pressed its advantage, launching what appeared to be capture drones, smaller vessels equipped with energy nets designed specifically to ensnare and immobilize targets. These approached with frightening speed, their patterns more sophisticated than the earlier drones, clearly designed to counter even superhuman reflexes. Goku's expression hardened as he watched them approach. Something primal stirred within him, not the battle lust of his Saiyan heritage, but something older and more focused. A territorial imperative that went beyond personal survival. These invaders threatened not just him, but Earth, his friends, and most immediately, 18. The dragon blood responded to T's protective instinct with a surge of power unlike anything he'd experienced before. "Drakon Alethinos Morphe," he growled, the ancient words emerging without conscious thought. True dragon form. The transformation was not like achieving Super Saiyan or even the divine forms. Rather than an explosion of power, this was a remembering, his body recalling a configuration encoded in his very DNA. Scales erupted across his entire form, no longer just armor-like patches but a complete covering that gleamed with metallic iridescence. His muscle structure shifted, becoming more sinewy and flexible while losing none of its power. A ridge of hardened scales formed along his spine, and his features altered subtly, cheekbones more pronounced, jaw stronger, teeth sharper. Most dramatically, membranous wings extended from his back, not fully formed but functional enough to provide enhanced maneuverability in space. His eyes blazed golden, vertical pupils focusing with predatory intensity on the approaching threat. 18 stared in astonishment at this partial draconic transformation. "Goku." His voice, when he responded, carried harmonics that hadn't been present before. "Still me. Just more." He flexed his transformed limbs, testing the new configuration. "This feels right somehow." Before she could respond, the capture drones were upon them. Goku moved with impossible speed, his new form perfectly adapted for zero-gravity combat. Each movement flowed into the next with liquid grace, his attacks carrying devastating force despite their apparent effortlessness. 18 quickly adapted her fighting style to complement his, using her perfect energy control to create openings that Goku exploited with brutal efficiency. Where she was precise and calculating, he was instinctive and overwhelming. Together, they dismantled the capture drones with synchronized attacks that seemed choreographed despite being entirely improvised. As the last drone exploded into fragments, Goku turned his attention to the main vessel, which had begun charging what appeared to be its primary weapon, a massive energy cannon emerging from its forward section. "They're getting desperate," he observed, wings adjusting his position with minimal effort. "That weapon's designed to incapacitate, not kill. They still want to capture us." "Their mistake," 18 replied, brushing debris from her clothing with mechanical precision. "How do you want to approach this?" Goku considered their options, drawing on both the memory scale's knowledge and his own battle experience. Direct assault would be expected. We need something they won't anticipate. His gaze fell on 18, an idea forming. How close would you need to be to interface with their main systems? She raised an eyebrow, immediately grasping his thinking. Physical contact with any primary conduit would be sufficient. But their outer hull is heavily shielded against intrusion, both physical and electronic. "What about from inside?" Goku asked, a plan taking shape. "If I could get you past the outer defenses." 18's eyes widened slightly as she understood. "You want to use yourself as bait to create an opening. They want a Dragon Saiyan," he confirmed with a predatory smile that revealed slightly elongated canines. "Let's give them one, along with a surprise they won't see coming." 18 studied him for a moment, analyzing the tactical soundness of the plan versus the risks involved. "It's dangerous," she concluded, "but potentially effective. Their protocols will prioritize your capture over stopping me." "Then we have a plan," Goku declared, extending his hand to her. "Ready to infiltrate an alien spaceship." She took his offered hand, her cool fingers contrasting with his now warm scales. "I was built for this sort of thing," she reminded him dryly, though there was a hint of anticipation in her tone that hadn't been present in their earlier conflicts. Together, they turned toward the massive collector vessel, its weapons still charging for what would clearly be a decisive strike. Goku gathered his energy, both traditional ki and dragon power, creating a distinctive signature that would be impossible for the collectors to ignore. "Dracon Flaminos," he intoned, his partially transformed body erupting in golden flames that trailed behind him like a comet's tail. "Dragon Aflame," with 18 securely at his side, protected within his energy field. He launched directly toward the collector ship's main weapon array, apparently suicidal, certainly reckless, and exactly the kind of bold move that had defined his fighting style throughout his life. The ship's sensors registered the incoming threat, and predictably, its automated defense systems tracked to intercept. Secondary weapons fired in coordinated patterns designed to herd rather than destroy, confirming 18's assessment that capture remained their primary objective. Goku wove through the barrage with preternatural agility, wings adjusting his trajectory with micro-movements that would have been impossible in his human form. Each maneuver brought them closer to the ship's hull, exactly as planned. 3 seconds to contact, 18 announced, her internal chronometer perfectly precise. Outer defenses activating. Sure enough, the section of hull directly in their path began to shimmer with protective energy fields designed to repel incoming threats. Goku narrowed his eyes, focusing on a specific point where the fields overlapped. "Dracon Diaspasi," he called, concentrating his energy into his leading hand. "Dragon Breach." His clawed finge RS struck the convergence point of the force fields with surgical precision, the specialized energy disrupting the fields, coherence just enough to create a momentary weakness. In that split-second opening, he poured power into a focused strike that punched through both the fields and the hull beneath. The breach created, Goku twisted in mid-flight, positioning 18 to enter first while he followed directly behind, his larger form shielding her from the automated defenses that immediately activated within the ship. They landed in what appeared to be a maintenance corridor, alarm systems blaring in response to the hull breach. Emergency force fields had already sealed the opening behind them, preventing atmosphere loss but also trapping them inside, exactly as they'd intended. "Internal security converging on our position," 18 reported, her sensors detecting movement throughout the vessel. Approximately 40 seconds until contact. Goku's transformation remained stable, though maintaining it required conscious effort. "Enough time," he assured her. "Can you locate the primary systems?" 18 closed her eyes briefly, extending her cybernetic senses to interface with the ambient technology around them. 3 decks down. Central chamber. That's where the extraction equipment and main computer core are located. Then that's where we're headed, Goku decided, flexing his wings in the confined space. You remember the plan. I'll draw their attention while you find a terminal access point and shut down their systems, 18 finished. I remember. She hesitated, then added with uncharacteristic concern. Don't take unnecessary risks. These collectors were specifically designed to counter Dragon Saiyan abilities. Goku's transformed features softened slightly at her concern. I'll be careful, he promised. Then grinned, revealing those slightly elongated canines. Besides, I'm not a full Dragon Saiyan yet, according to Vara. Maybe their countermeasures won't work on a half-baked one. 18 didn't share his optimism but nodded nonetheless. 30 seconds. We should move. Without further discussion, they proceeded deeper into the vessel, moving with practiced stealth born from countless battles. The ship's interior resembled a cross between organic architecture and advanced technology, corridors formed of materials that seemed to pulse with life despite being clearly artificial. As they approached a junction where the corridor split into multiple paths, Goku suddenly stopped, head tilting as though listening to something beyond normal perception. What is it? 18 whispered, scanning for threats. There's something else on this ship, he replied, voice low. Something alive, and in pain. 18 frowned, extending her sensors but detecting nothing beyond the expected collector signatures. I'm not picking up additional life forms. It's there, Goku insisted, his draconic senses perceiving something her technology couldn't. And it's familiar somehow. He shook his head, refocusing on their mission. We'll investigate after we've secured the ship. Get ready. Company's coming. Sure enough, the sound of approaching collectors echoed through the corridors, the distinctive rhythmic movement of their armored forms against the ship's flooring. Goku positioned himself at the junction, wings folded against his back to present a smaller target. See you at the central chamber, he told 18, their eyes meeting briefly. Something unspoken passed between them, concern, determination, and a deeper connection neither had fully acknowledged. Then he was gone, bursting into the open with a roar that echoed through the ship's corridors, deliberately drawing all attention to himself. The sounds of combat followed immediately, energy discharges, impacts of bodies against walls, and the distinctive harmonic resonance of dragon energy being unleashed. 18 moved in the opposite direction, her programming allowing her to create a perfect mental map of the vessel as she navigated its twisting corridors. She encountered minimal resistance, proof that Goku's diversion was working as intended, and made rapid progress toward the central chamber. Eaching a sealed door that her sensors identified as the entrance to her target, 18 placed her palm against the locking mechanism. Her cybernetic systems interfaced with the alien technology, bypassing security protocols with methodical precision. The door slid open to reveal a vast chamber dominated by equipment whose purpose was unmistakable even to unfamiliar eyes. In the center stood a transpi, errant containment unit large enough to hold a humanoid subject, surrounded by various extraction apparatus with needle-like protrusions designed to penetrate even the toughest skin. Around the chamber's perimeter, computer terminals displayed scrolling data in an alien language, monitoring ship functions and presumably controlling the extraction process. 18 moved directly to what appeared to be the primary console, once again extending her interface capabilities. The alien system resisted initially, its architecture unlike Earth technology, but 18's adaptive programming gradually made sense of the unfamiliar protocols. Images and data began to flash across her consciousness, and what she discovered sent a chill through her partially organic systems. The collectors had been hunting Dragon Saiyans for millennia, capturing and extracting genetic material from partially awakened individuals across multiple universes. The data included records of hundreds of subjects, most of whom had not survived the extraction process. Those who had were left as empty shells, their dragon essence completely removed. More disturbing were the records of what had been done with the harvested material. Experiments to replicate the dragon powers, attempts to infuse other species with the genetic potential, and worst of all, a weapon development program designed to specifically target and neutralize Dragon blood regardless of what form it took. 18 realized with growing horror that they weren't simply facing hunters seeking trophies, they were up against a systematic operation with vast resources, a single-minded determination to ensure Dragon Saiyans never reclaimed their ancient power. She had just begun shutting down critical ship systems when a new presence registered behind her. She WHIR led to face a collector unlike the others they had encountered, larger, its armor more elaborate, with a faceplate that appeared almost ceremonial in its complexity. Fascinating, it said, its voice deeper and more articulate than the drone-like speech of its subordinates. An artificial being allied with the dragon blood. The records mention such anomalies, but I've never observed one personally. 18 shifted into a combat stance, internal systems diverting power to offensive capabilities. Who are you? I am Archival Unit Prime, custodian of the genetic repository and overseer of extraction protocols. The entity moved with unsettling grace for its size, circling to position itself between 18 and the exit. Your companion's diversion was impressive but predictable. Dragon blood always prioritizes direct confrontation over subtlety. Where is Goku? 18 demanded, sensors scanning for any sign of his energy signature. Currently engaged with my collection units, Prime replied with mechanical indifference. He fights well, but the ship's internal defense systems are specifically calibrated to counter draconic abilities. Containment is merely a matter of time. As if to emphasize this point, the ship shuddered with a distant impact, followed by a noticeable dimming of the lights as power was diverted to containment fields elsewhere in the vessel. He's more resourceful than you realize, 18 countered, buying time while completing her sabotage programs in the background. Perhaps, Prime acknowledged, but ultimately irrelevant. Even if he escapes today, the collectors will continue their work. We have pursued the dragon blood since before your species evolved consciousness. We are patient. 18's eyes narrowed as she analyzed her opponent, identifying weak points in its armor and probable attack patterns based on its construction. Why? What threatens you so much about the Dragon Saiyans? Threat is irrelevant. Balance is paramount. Prime's face plate shifted, revealing glimpses of what might have once been an organic face, now heavily augmented with cybernetic components. The first ones disrupted cosmic equilibrium. Their descendants cannot be allowed to repeat this error. Without warning, Prime launched forward with surprising speed, armor plates shifting to reveal integrated weapons that fired concentrated energy beams. 18 evaded with precise movements. Her combat programming calculating optimal counterattacks even as she maintained the background interface with the ship's systems. The clash that followed was unlike her usual battles. Where most opponents relied on raw power or speed, Prime fought with calculated efficiency that mirrored her own mechanical precision. Each attack and counter was performed with minimal wasted movement, creating a deadly dance of near misses and glancing blows. 18 found herself both challenged and strangely stimulated by the encounter. Facing an opponent whose fighting style complemented her own so perfectly was rare. However, unlike Prime, whose purpose was singular and unchanging, 18 had evolved beyond her programming, developing adaptability that no purely mechanical being could match. As the battle continued, she deliberately established patterns only to break them at crucial moments, creating openings that a less flexible opponent couldn't anticipate. Prime's attacks, while perfectly executed, became predictable once 18 identified the underlying algorithms governing its combat routines. Your design is impressive, Prime observed during a momentary separation, but ultimately flawed. You retain too much human unpredictability for optimal efficiency. That's not a flaw, 18 replied coolly, it's an advantage. She demonstrated this by suddenly switching tactics, abandoning the defensive posture she'd maintained throughout the fight to launch a recklessly direct attack that no purely logical system would have attempted. The gambit caught Prime off guard, allowing 18 to slip past its guard and drive her fist directly into a junction where several armor plates met. The impact created a cascading failure in Prime's defensive systems, momentarily stunning the entity and giving 18 the opening she needed. She placed her palm directly against Prime's exposed cybernetic components, initiating a direct interface that bypassed all security protocols. What are you? Prime began, mechanical voice distorting as 18's intrusion spread through its systems. Showing you what human unpredictability really means, 18 answered, her eyes glowing as she executed commands T. No programmer had ever intended her systems to perform. The interface created a temporary bridge between 18's consciousness and Prime's data core, giving her direct access to not just the ship's systems but the entire collector network. For brief, dizzying moments, she glimpsed vast repositories of information spanning millennia, the systematic hunting of dragon-blooded individuals across multiple universes, the technological evolution of the collectors themselves, and most critically, the location of their central command structure. Before Prime could sever the connection, 18 completed her sabotage program, simultaneously shutting down the ship's primary systems and implanting a virus that would spread throughout the collector network, corrupting their data on Dragon Saiyans and Kree Ting false positives that would send their hunters on pointless pursuits across the cosmos. Prime collapsed as its systems crashed, the elegant coordination of its cybernetic components dissolving into twitching disarray. 18 stepped back, processing the vast amount of information she'd gleaned from the brief connection. Fascinating indeed, she murmured, echoing Prime's earlier assessment. Tremendous crash from above interrupted her thoughts as a section of the ceiling gave way, admitting Goku in his draconic form, wings extended and scales gleaming with energy as he descended into the chamber. His appearance showed signs of combat. Portions of his scale armor cracked or missing, a thin line of blood tracing his jawline, but his eyes burned with undiminished intensity. 18, he called, relief evident in his voice. Are you all right? I lost track of you when they forced me to the upper levels. I'm fine, she assured him, stepping away from Prime's immobilized form. And I've disabled the ship's primary systems. We should have approximately 12 minutes before emergency protocols reactivate. Goku landed beside her, wings folding against his back as he surveyed the chamber with evident distaste. This place. They've been doing this for a long time, haven't they? Centuries, at minimum, 18 confirmed grimly. And they're not the only ones. There's an entire network of collector cells across multiple universes, all dedicated to hunting Dragon Saiyans. Goku's expression darkened, the draconic features making his anger more pronounced. We'll deal with that later. Right now, we need to find the other presence you sensed, 18 finished, remembering his earlier concern. I accessed their database briefly. There's a containment level 1 deck below us where they keep specimens for study. Without hesitation, Goku moved to the chamber floor and drove his fist through it, enhanced strength puncturing the metal with ease. He tore a hole large enough for them to pass through, revealing a dimly lit space below. After you, he offered with a gesture that managed to be both courteous and urgent. 18 dropped through the opening, landing silently in what appeared to be a laboratory filled with containment units of various sizes. Most were empty, but one at the far end pulsed with faint bioenergetic readings that her sensors detected immediately. There, she indicated, moving toward the active unit with Goku close behind. As they approached, the contents became visible, a humanoid figure suspended in clear fluid, connected to monitoring equipment via numerous tubes and sensors. The being appeared female, with pale blue skin and delicate features currently slack in unconsciousness or stasis. A Tuffle, Goku identified with surprise, drawing on knowledge from the memory scale. I thought they were extinct after the Saiyan Tuffle War. According to the data I accessed, she was preserved in stasis for centuries before the collectors found her, 18 explained. Examining the containment controls, they've been studying her because Tuffles apparently had significant interactions with Dragon Saiyans before the species diverged. Goku stepped closer to the containment unit, placing a scaled hand against the transparent surface. We can't leave her here. Agreed. 18 interfaced with the control panel, methodically disengaging the various life support systems while maintaining vital functions. Releasing the stasis field now. The fluid began to drain from the chamber, and the tubes retracted automatically as the system prepared for specimen extraction. As the last of the fluid disappeared, the Tuffle woman's eyes fluttered open, revealing irises of such a deep purple they appeared almost black. Confusion gave way to alarm as she registered their presence. Her mouth opened as if to scream, but no sound emerged, likely a result of extended stasis. Instead, her eyes widened further as she focused on Goku's transformed appearance. Recognition and fear chasing across her features in rapid succession. Kaio Drakon, she whispered, voice raspy from disuse but the ancient language unmistakable. Dragon King. We're not here to hurt you, Goku assured her, instinctively responding in the same language before switching back to common speech. We're freeing you from the collectors. The containment unit opened with a hydraulic hiss, and the Tuffle woman stumbled forward, weak from her extended imprisonment. 18 caught her before she could fall, supporting her with gentle efficiency. How long? The woman managed, clearly struggling to organize her thoughts. My name is Goku, and this is 18, Goku introduced them, deliberately allowing his draconic features to recede somewhat to appear less threatening. As for how long you've been here, we don't know exactly. What's your name? The woman blinked, focusing with visible effort. Nyan, she replied after a moment. I was lead geneticist for the Royal Tuffle Science Division. We'll get you somewhere safe, Goku promised. But we need to leave now. Can you walk? Nyan attempted to stand independently but faltered immediately. My muscle density has deteriorated, she observed with clinical detachment despite her situation. Extended stasis without proper cyclic stimulation. Without hesitation, Goku moved to lift her, his partially transformed state making the action effortless despite his battle fatigue. I'll carry you. 18, what's our best exit strategy? The hull breach we created is still the most direct route, 18 replied after consulting her internal map of the vessel. But security will have concentrated there by now. Then we make a new exit, Goku decided, adjusting his hold on Nyan to free one hand. Dracon Pyros. Golden flames erupted from his palm, condensing into a focused beam that he directed at the chamber's outer wall. The specialized energy cut through the advanced materials with surprising effectiveness, CR. Eating a circular opening approximately 2 meters in diameter. Space became visible beyond the breach, stars gleaming against the void. Emergency force fields activated immediately, preventing Atmos. Fear loss but creating only a minimal barrier to their departure. Hold tight, Goku instructed Nyan, who nodded weakly and tightened her grip around his neck. 18 moved to his side, placing a hand on his shoulder. The ship's systems are beginning to reboot. We have less than 2 minutes before weapons come back online. Then let's not waste time, Goku replied, gathering his energy around them all to create a protective bubble. With one powerful thrust of his wings, he launched them through the force field and into open space, leaving the crippled collector vessel behind. Earth hung below them, blue and serene against the blackness, unaware of the battle that had just been fought to protect it. Goku angled their descent toward the atmosphere, wings adjusting their trajectory for optimal re-entry. Will your transformation hold through atmospheric entry? 18 asked, noting the occasional flicker in his scale patterns. Long enough, Goku assured her, though the strain of maintaining the partial dragon form was becoming evident in his voice. The memory scale is helping me stabilize it. As they began their descent, 18's sensors detected energy buildups from the collector ship. They're bringing weapons back online faster than anticipated, she warned. Targeting systems activating. They just don't give up, do they? Goku muttered, increasing their speed. Hang on, this might get rough. The first energy beams lanced out from the vessel, narrowly missing their rapidly moving forms. Goku wove through the barrage with impressive agility despite his fatigue and the extra burden of carrying Nyan. Just as they entered the upper atmosphere, a final desperate shot from the collector ship struck Goku's wing, disrupting his control and sending them tumbling into a steeper descent than intended. The protective energy bubble fluctuated dangerously as his concentration wavered. Goku, 18 called in alarm, reaching for him as atmospheric friction began to heat the space around them. I've got this, he insisted through gritted teeth, scales glowing with increasing intensity as they absorbed and redirected the tremendous heat of re-entry. Dracon Aspida Enishizi, Dragon Shield Reinforce. The protective bubble stabilized, but the cost was evident. Goku's partial transformation began to recede, scales sinking back beneath his skin as he channeled the last of his dragon energy into protecting them from the atmospheric entry. 18 moved closer, supporting him as his wings dissipated entirely, leaving him in his base form once more. Save your strength, she instructed, taking control of their descent with her own energy. I can handle the landing. Goku nodded gratefully, his focus now entirely on maintaining his hold on the unconscious Tuffle woman. The strain of extended transformation and battle had depleted his reserves more than he'd anticipated. As Earth's surface rushed up to meet them, 18 carefully controlled their deceleration, guiding them toward the forested area where they had established their camp. The golden streak of their descent would be visible for miles. Subtlety was no longer an option. They landed with surprising gentleness given their tumultuous re-entry, touching down in a small clearing not far from the base camp. Goku immediately sank to one knee, carefully setting Nyan down before allowing himself a moment of recovery. That, he panted, was more intense than I expected. 18 knelt beside him, conducting a quick visual assessment of his condition. Your vital signs are stabilizing, but you've overextended your connection to the dragon energy. The transformation was premature. Goku nodded ruefully. The memory scale provided the knowledge, but my body isn't fully ready yet. He glanced at Nyan, who had regained consciousness and was now observing them with wary fascination. At least we got her out. Yes, 18 agreed, though her expression remained concerned. But the collectors now have confirmation of your awakening progress. They'll return with greater resources. Let them come, Goku replied with quiet determination, rising to his feet with renewed steadiness. We'll be ready. As they helped Nyan to her feet, supporting her between them, 18 cast a final glance at the sky where the collector ship was now just a distant glint among the stars. She had not shared everything she'd learned during her brief connection with Prime's systems, particularly the evidence that the collectors were merely one faction among many with interest in the Dragon Saiyan's return. The game board was large, and more complex than any of them had realized, with players they had yet to identify moving pieces from the shadows. But one thing was certain, Goku's awakening had irrevocably changed the cosmic balance. And there would be no returning to the simpler days before scales and dragons entered their lives. As they made their way toward camp, 18 found herself unexpectedly at peace with this new reality. After all, adaptation was what she had been designed for, and there was something strangely appropriate about finding her place alongside a man who was becoming something beyond ordinary comprehension. The dragon and the machine. Indeed, Caulifla stood amid the wreckage of what had once been a pristine forest clearing, chest heaving with exertion but eyes bright with the thrill of victory. The tempest energy still crackled around her hands, crimson scales gleaming across her forearms and cheekbones in patterns that resembled stylized flames. A dozen disabled collector units lay scattered around her, their advanced technology no match for the primal fury she had unleashed. Unlike Goku's more controlled manifestation, Caulifla's dragon abilities expressed themselves as raw, chaotic power, beautiful in its destructive potential. That, she declared with fierce satisfaction, was actually fun. Vara emerged from behind the defensive barrier she had erected around their equipment, surveying the battlefield with raised eyebrows. You certainly have a unique interpretation of fun, she observed dryly. Though I must admit, your control over the tempest energy has improved remarkably. Caulifla flexed her scaled hands, watching as the patterns shifted with her movements. It stopped fighting me once I stopped trying to make it behave like regular ki. This power doesn't want to be contained, it wants to be channeled. An apt description of the Tempest bloodline, Vara agreed, approaching one of the disabled collectors and examining it with clinical interest. Your ancestors were always the Stormbringers, the catalysts of necessary change when the sovereign line grew too rigid or cautious. Caulifla absorbed this information, finding satisfaction in the role her lineage had played. She had never been one for rules or restraint, learning that this trait was literally in her blood felt right. What will they send next? She asked, nodding toward the fallen collectors. These were just scouts. The collectors operate in escalating response patterns, Vara explained, straightening from her examination. First observation, then capture attempts, then, if those fail, elimination protocols. So they'll try to kill us next, Caulifla concluded without apparent concern. Sounds more straightforward than all this capturing business. Vara shook her head at the young Saiyan's cavalier attitude. Do not underestimate them. The collectors have been hunting dragon blood for millennia. They have developed specific counters to every known dragon ability. Except this isn't known dragon ability. Caulifla countered, summoning crimson energy that swirled around her arm in distinct contrast to traditional ki manifestation. You said yourself, the Tempest bloodline was thought extinct until I showed up. They don't have a counter for what they haven't seen before. Before Vara could respond, both women's attention snapped to the sky where a golden STR. of light cut across the afternoon blue, the unmistakable signature of re-entry. Goku and 18, Caulifla identified, already moving in their direction. Something's wrong. His energy feels depleted. Vara followed, moving with surprising speed for her slight frame. He attempted full transformation too soon, she assessed, concern evident in her voice. The sovereign bloodline requires more gradual awakening than the Tempest. They raced through the forest, Caulifla instinctively using her Tempest energy to boost her speed, leaving small whirlwinds in her wake. Within minutes, they reached the clearing where Goku and 18 had landed, finding them supporting a third figure between them. "You look like hell," Caulifla greeted Goku, her blunt assessment masking genuine concern. "And you've brought a friend." Goku managed a weary smile. "Caulifla, Vara, meet Nyan, last survivor of the Tuffle race and former captive of the Collectors." Vara froze, violet eyes widening as she took in the blue-skinned woman. "A Tuffle," she breathed, clear recognition in her voice. Preserved from before the purge. Nyan raised her head weakly, studying Vara with equal recognition. "Chronicler," she acknowledged. "The Watchers still exist, then." "Barely," Vara replied cryptically, then turned to Goku. "This changes matters considerably. The Tuffles were among the few races that maintained accurate records of the first ones." Goku nodded, the strain of the recent battle evident in his posture despite his attempt to appear recovered. "That's why the Collectors had her. She knows things about Dragon Saiyans that even you might not." "What happened up there?" Caulifla demanded, eyes narrowing as she noted the burn marks on Goku's GI and the unusual pallor beneath his normally healthy complexion. "We disabled a collector ship, accessed their database, and rescued Nyan," 18 summarized efficiently. "Goku achieved partial dragon transformation but couldn't sustain it through atmospheric re-entry." "You transformed." Caulifla's voice carried equal parts envy and concern. "How?" "I've barely managed scales and energy manipulation." "It wasn't intentional," Goku admitted. "The situation was desperate, and something just clicked. The memory scale provided the knowledge, but I pushed too far too fast." Vara stepped forward, placing a six-fingered hand on Goku's forehead. Her eyes glowed briefly as she assessed his condition. "The dragon energy is stabilizing, but you've created micro-tears in your cellular structure by forcing the transformation. You need rest and recovery before attempting any further manifestations."